Minnesota border town losing business to Wisconsin over shutdown rules, and we're tying in Wisconsin bars, restaurants remain open and ready for business. I want to really focus in on this article. In this business, it's hard to survive a week without cash flow. Is one of the owners now, and this is also Ashley Penny, a regular at Gronk's over in Wisconsin, said supporting local businesses is important during this time, both for the business and for the customers. She says it gets you out of the house. It gives you a chance to at least not eat the same dinners every night. And she says, I think they've done a really good job separating people and making people who come to these places feel comfortable, which is why I wanted to wait a minute and talk about this. I think that's so important. No business wants to run their business to go out of business. No. And so the reason we did two articles here, everybody, is that one was done in June and one was done towards the beginning of June, and one was done towards the end of right at Thanksgiving time, I guess, here, the 20th, 22nd or something of November. But the theme is exactly the same. Minnesota is shut down. Wisconsin is open. And I forgot, honestly, to pull up the COVID numbers and some of that kind of stuff. But I'm going to do that. I'm going to pull this off of memory, because when I read these articles, I did look into it, and I looked at COVID numbers. And so the thing, and I didn't look at Wisconsin COVID numbers, and here's why. Our COVID numbers in Minnesota started to go down, completely in correlation with the numbers of tests they did. I was like, wow. The COVID numbers went down directly correlated to the number of tests that they did.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So the way you frame everything is so important. And if you're saying that our COVID numbers are spiking, but you are pushing through a whole lot more COVID tests, guess what? They're going to spike.
Absolutely.
The other problem that I had with our state of Minnesota is that the COVID hospitalizations were actually flat. The critical were flat. Deaths were flat, right? But you keep digging on this, and I'm like, well, why would Minnesota be shut down versus Wisconsin? We're so close, blah, blah, blah. You keep digging in on this, and we have actual car accidents that people that had COVID, and guess what the leading cause of death was?
Oh, man.
COVID-19. And this is actually really starting to come out the last couple of days, big time. And the reason I kept digging on this and wondering why about this massive shutdown like this, why one state is so different than another. Unfortunately, in April, with all due respect to the two families that I'm going to discuss, because I'm certain that you'll listen, one of them lost someone to suicide, and one of them in a car crash. And they reached out to me, and one was in April and one was in May. They both were listed as COVID deaths. And I thought that was like a wow, whoops.
That's a wow.
They had COVID when they died, but they didn't die of COVID.
Yes.
But they're listing it.
On the death certificate, it's listed as a COVID death.
Yes.
And
So they had COVID when they died, but they didn't die of COVID.
Exactly. And that is so alarming to me that that's happening, and it's shutting down these businesses. And it's a theme over a period of 6 months. These two articles are almost identical. It makes me sick, frankly.
We heard about some of this on Capitol Hill on Saturday. The mental health, all these people that have passed that tested positive for COVID once they died. They didn't die of COVID, but they had COVID when they died. It was classified as COVID. I mean, they have families' names just like that, or different people who on the death certificate it's listed as COVID, and they never even knew they had COVID. The loved one never even knew they had COVID, but obviously once the autopsy came, they tested positive for COVID.
Yeah, and there's
classified
cancer
it.
deaths that have been listed
Yeah.
as COVID that I saw with my eyes. And it's like, that's so concerning. So how can we ever get out of a lockdown if things aren't actually being reported properly?
And why are they not being reported properly?
exactly.
That is my question. Why are we deciding over, to declare it as a COVID death over a car accident? Why are we doing this? That's my big question. We want the numbers to be higher?
Follow the money.
What's the benefit?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the
Financially or
benefit?
politically
Yeah.
or
Follow the money.
whatever
Yeah.
or power. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody did just report Mayo Clinic how much money they make a day on reporting COVID. Of all Mayo
It's
Clinic.
become a moneymaker, and that's so sad.
The CDC,
The testing,
CDC
the testing.
actually had come out and said that they there's a lot more money in it with COVID.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And how
It's like
disrespectful to the
58,000.
families of these victims. I mean, we can't
absolutely.
even honor their deaths properly because
Can't have funerals.
we
Because
can't
have-
have,
because of
can't
the
have
agenda.
funerals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
all virtual. Yeah.
And obviously there's a lot of I don't care because, these people have to be like, well, how did they pass? They're going to continue to get these questions. They're supposed to say COVID when it was a car accident. I mean, then that leaves more, I don't know. To me, that's just,
But why is it being covered up as much as
Right.
it? You have to dig like crazy to find this stuff, and it's not super transparent.
Mm-hmm.
You can find it; it's still there.
yeah.
But why are news outlets not blasting our governor for
Right.
locking everything down when the numbers aren't accurate?
Right.
Why
Because they
is-
use numbers that fit their agenda.
Right.
And how do we look at Minnesota compared to all the states around us? I mean,
We're
literally.
comparable. I mean, I didn't look at it super recently, but during this recent lockdown that started in November, our numbers were nearly identical to the states around us.
But that's what I'm saying.
yet
for
they were
lockdown,
open.
But then they're all open.
Right.
Like we literally are bordered around states.
Before actually, if you look at the trend, and I should have pulled it up, so people that are listening and watching, go fact check this stuff. And that's why we're here. We're here to just open your mind and get you out of that echo chamber. But so the trend already at Minnesota's lockdown in November was trending down.
Right.
Our cases were trending down. So then what happens, the way I think, the lockdown worked. Numbers start trending down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, not only did the numbers start trending down in relationship to then now the testing starts going down. So now all of a sudden the lockdowns start working. The numbers are going down. Whoa. Mind blown.
Data in, data out.
Yep.
You can
It's
make
all-
something say whatever
absolutely.
you want.
Yeah.
By what data you put into it.
Absolutely.
all the models, all the models, all the models.
So you can call it
They're
scientific.
not very good
but-
looking models.
Yeah.
So I thought that was clear.
They're no Chris Hemsworth models, are they?
No.
Yeah. I mean, even how the Minnesota state started to report the deaths that they were doing every day, what they originally did, and all the active cases and everything like that, and how it was before Thanksgiving that they started to change how they were reporting all that. That wasn't even consistent. So there's not like an apples to apples and oranges comparison on a day-to-day basis. There was for like the first couple months, and then after that they started to change how they were kind of reporting all their numbers. So you couldn't even compare it to like the month before, the 2 months before that, the trend.
Yeah.
It's like they reinvented the whole wheel
Every time
midstream.
yeah.
Yep.
Midstream.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's why I say the models, because their models weren't consistent
Yeah.
with everything.
And go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, is it contact tracing?
Yeah. Contact
Where
tracing.
I talked to a friend of mine that had it, and she was in the ICU for 3 or 4 days. I mean, he was on oxygen and the whole works.
Yep.
And he came out of it, but he had underlying conditions. And I said, when you do your questionnaire, do they ask you if you were at Target or Walmart or a big box or whatever? He said, no, you voluntarily give them where you have been. So, yeah, everybody's going to talk about the restaurants they go to. But
That's not actually. I don't know when. What
they didn't ask, well, were you at Walmart?
Yeah.
What's the timeline of that. When did that happen? No, I mean, when was your friend? When did he have?
Oh, 6-8 weeks ago.
Okay,
So it's been a while.
So they actually do specifically ask restaurants on. So
Okay.
someone sent me a screenshot.
Okay.
Or they snapped a picture. In the questionnaire, they don't ask about big box stores.
Correct.
They do allow you to say,
Volunteer the information.
yeah, but they
Yeah.
do specifically ask certain things on there, and I can't remember exactly, but restaurants were one of them. That was a big one.
Yeah.
And his
And
was a
the
phone
small
call.
business.
It wasn't. He didn't get a questionnaire to fill out.
Okay,
The CDC called him
sure.
and
That's
asked
what
him
they're
where he'd
doing
been.
with a
So,
lot of them,
so again,
And-
different data in and out.
And it's how you
gets
frame
different
the
results.
question.
Absolutely.
You know, you can frame the question all you want. Costco's have restaurants in them, right?
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
you know, they could
You
have
just can't sit down in the store anymore.
right. You know, so it's
I know.
Yeah, it's so
Everyone I
bizarre.
know is trained to say if they call.
It's
if
not
you have a moment,
congruent,
yeah.
right? It's none of it's congruent, and that's where I have the issue. None of it is congruent. It doesn't flow.
It's not consistent across the whole board.
At all.
From day one, it's not consistent.
Which makes you want, it makes you realize why the numbers are inconsistent as
then
well.
It just shows untrustability, that you can't trust who's saying what because it's their agenda compared to the actual true
Yeah.
purpose or product.
But you can go to the mall and get food.
And
but
walk
you can't
around.
sit- but
you
you
can
can't
walk
sit on
around
the
and eat
floor
it.
to eat it.
You right. I always went. I was just at the mall, so it's funny that you bring this up. And I noticed, I'm like, all the tables are gone and everything, and all of the restaurants are open. And I'm like, okay. So I'm thinking about this. I'm like, so we can go get food, but what they're encouraging us to do is take it and then go home or go eat it in our car. Obviously, I have to say, while being in the mall, I've never seen anybody walking around eating their food, but it's at the same time, you're like, what are we doing here? It's like, be consistent. Like, are we eating at restaurants? Are we not? Why are we supporting these restaurants, but the other ones can't be supported?
Because
You-
they're in a mall and not a individual
Right.
store.
Right, and it doesn't make any sense. And then, in November in Minnesota is not really favorable weather-wise.
Oh my gosh!
Time was
it is
Right.
a little
a
off
storm.
on
And
In a
that.
so
snowstorm.
then they say, you can go ahead and have an outdoor restaurant in Minnesota in November.
Heated in a tent with a heater and tables physically
Obviously closer
spaced.
together
Yeah,
more,
right.
which
But you
feels
can't go
closer.
inside.
You're right.
Yeah.
Put the inside outside so that
Yeah.
you can eat outside.
So New
inside.
Year's
Yeah.
Eve, I was at the Alibi. We ate dinner. We sang Happy New Year's. We, had a good time. We're all next to each other. And then right across the street was a tent. I felt really bad because they looked like they're in an ice shack with their long johns and snow pants on. And we're inside, having a good time and everything like that. And that's our right. to do
Right.
that.
They
So,
chose that. They
Yeah.
chose to be in that
Yeah.
little ice shack
it's
with the
sad.
heat.
I mean,
And
it's just sad.
yeah.
And think about the revenue we're losing in our state, because we
Well,
also
tax
went
revenue.
over to
Right.
yes,
Yes.
that's kind of what my focus was too. We went to Wisconsin to my son's for New Year's Eve and ate out at a restaurant. Did wonders for the soul. It did.
Yeah.
Just like I'm not taking pictures, like, oh look, there's people eating.
Right.
It's so cool. And they're
Yeah.
looking at me like, you must be from Minnesota. It was almost like we were being
Outside
laughed
meeting.
at. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
This was 10 miles into the border. You know what I mean? But most of the cars were all Minnesota.
Yeah.
So what are we, if we're this close and all that money is going to Wisconsin,
Yeah.
not to
I
Minnesota?
mean, how is that going to affect our taxes and years?
Oh, it's
Right.
affecting it.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Do they
massive
not
ways.
realize not having tax revenue? I mean, what do they do? I mean, even look at locally Rochester, how much they wanted to charge downtown businesses and double their taxes to try to bring in and fix that deficit that they're going to have. Obviously,
When the RDA was doubling their fees because they
Yeah.
didn't have the income from Thursdays on
Right.
First,
yeah.
and most of their clients are gift stores and restaurants who
So
can't be
who,
open.
who's making this money? Obviously, we're spending it somewhere.
It's the big
Right.
boxes.
Right. But,
Yeah, well, there's a lot of
but I
people
mean-
out of work. Lots of
Right.
people, millions and millions,
Right.
and traveling all over the country. I've seen hundreds, potentially thousands of businesses that are closed permanently.
Right.
And
I would think fast food restaurants must be making out pretty darn good.
Oh, look at
yeah. And liquor
Chick-fil-A.
stores.
There are
Look at
certain-
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Hello, look at Chick-fil-A.
right, there's certain
Six
places
line?
that
I'm
I
just
mean-
going to say, I'm going to give some props to Chick-fil-A because one of the things that I love about them, because I've been there a few times, it's my son's favorite place. But God, I'm just like, you guys are so organized. They got like
So
They
4
are.
lanes.
I mean, they are.
I'm just like, I'm impressed with that. I'm like, you guys got your stuff together, you
You can
know?
order a Chipotle burrito, get in line at Chick-fil-A, get your Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
Still wait.
And you're still waiting for that. You're still waiting for that burrito, or you're in Burger King or McDonald's, and you're still waiting.
Ice Shack set up now in
I saw that.
North parking lot, like a little kiosk,
Yep.
pop-up shop or whatever you want
Okay.
to do. A
Food
pop-up
truck, yeah.
Yeah, food truck, pop-up
Okay,
shop.
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Shout out to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, shout
Yeah.
out.
No kidding.
So I wonder how that makes, these local small business restaurants, how does that make them feel that, these drive-throughs, Burger King, McDonald's, I could just name so many of them. They're probably making out pretty good. I don't have the numbers, so I can't. But boy, that and coffee shop or the coffee places, the lines are crazy. So it's like I wish we could take some of this money and just help, which I think we are. We're ordering out, right? We're doing that.
Gift cards and-
Isn't it about
Yeah, it's
service?
Yeah.
it's
Isn't that about
service, it's social,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Isn't that why
so.
you go out to eat instead of eating at home for the service?
Well, here's the thing too. One thing I didn't realize is how much I not only that I enjoyed it, but how much I did it. Like when you got told that you can't do this anymore, you're almost like, what do I do with myself? If you're not working, what were you doing? If you're not spending it with your family, you're out socializing, you're meeting them at some place. And now it's got to the point where people don't even want you in their own homes. They're like, hey, we got to, meet me at the door, so.
And the city of Rochester has not helped the problem for the downtown restaurants. It's not just the restaurants that are hurting. We've talked about this of the other businesses too, but the construction downtown was set in progress well before this happened. So I understand that aspect of it. But when you shut down the pickup lanes in front of restaurants and make them park in a parking ramp across the road
parking ramp.
and then
Up
walk
on the top of the
over
parking ramp,
walk over across the street through construction to get your takeout, and it's 10 degrees out.
There you
It's
go.
gonna be cold before you get
Or
to it.
food safety here. Like your food's already either hot or cold by the time you transport all this too. You know what I mean? Is anybody thinking about that?
I think they've been trying to incorporate a lot of like Grubhub and like delivery services. I've seen that increase so much. I have neighbors. I'll be like looking over and I'm like, oh, she's getting another Frappuccino from McDonald's, and it's amazing too. Like, I think also with all this, it's how it is making us socially awkward. It's so much easier to just not go out and go get our food. We have services that bring it to us. So we're purposely keeping ourselves in this situation too.
We're making
We'll
ourselves
see.
lazier and lazier.
Yeah.
We'll see the mental health piece of that in 5 years from now.
It reminds me of the Disney movie WALL-E. Have you
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
WALL-E?
totally. Yeah,
totally. And that's where
absolutely.
we're coming, and we're so
Yeah.
oblivious, and all we're having the food
Yeah.
delivered to us. If you haven't seen it, watch
It
it.
makes me
It's
wanna see
cute.
it, yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's
is
how I
interesting.
laugh. That's
or
how I
V
feel
for
right now.
Vendetta. Anybody
Yeah.
seen that? That one's a good one.